All right, hey guys, this is Luke. I just wanted to do a quick video on a topic that has come up in our Facebook group. So, um, long runs come up quite a bit, and recently it's come up a couple different scenarios, but regarding what I've talked about in Hanson's marathon method, a couple of guidelines in the long run, and one is, keep the long runs to 3 hours, and the second one is keep the long runs at a percentage of your weekly mileage. So the first scenario really comes down to, and I've talked about this quite a bit, so this isn't really the one I'm gonna go into, but the first scenario is really that the long run takes less than 3 hours. So usually people want to say, I automatically want to bump up to going to a 3 hour long run and ask if they can. And honestly, it completely depends on the person's situation. But in all honesty, if a person's first time doing the Hanson's Marathon method, following the book or whatever they're doing, and it's a big step up overall in what their training is, I would keep it to what the book says. And then you also have to consider, you're only considering the time factor at that point. If you're running 50 miles a week and you're doing the 16-mile long run, you're going to be pretty close at that percentage of the week threshold anyway. So if you go up to, say, an 18 or 20 miler at that point, you might be crossing this threshold into being like 35-40% of your weekly mileage. So you don't really want to do that either. So that's all I'm really going to talk about as far as that scenario goes. And we've talked about that quite a bit in our Facebook group. And I believe I've written quite a bit about those things in the past as well. So not going to touch on that one. But the second scenario, which is definitely intriguing and fits a lot of people who are following plans in the book, and that is, this a lady actually talked about this in the Facebook group and was basically saying that my pace is so slow. Her marathon pace I think is like 12:30. Let's say 12:30, and if she slows down to run an easy run for the long run, she's in the 14-15 minute range for her marathon. And so she was basically saying, at that rate, I'll only get 12 miles in on my long run if I keep it to that 3 hour threshold. So in this case, yeah, we have to kind of examine some things and see what's going on there. As far as percentage of volume for the week, that's not going to be an issue, right? Because she's actually trying to get up to what we're recommending for the minimum volume. So our main factors here are, can she get even close to that 16 miles based off of her paces? So I've written down like basically 5 things that I would think about in this situation. And the first one is, immediately I thought of when she was talking about, well, I'm running like, 12-13 minute pace for my marathon. And then if I slow down, I'm going to be at over 15 minutes a mile. And so she's obviously recommending, she's also referencing the back end of what I talk about for easy run paces. So if you follow my blog at all, my writings, or in the book at all, we talk about that marathon pace can actually be all the way up to like 30 seconds slower than marathon pace. So this would actually save her, 2 minutes a mile if she just ran the long runs a little bit faster, which may or may not be possible. I don't know, because if a person at that rate, their general weaknesses aren't going to be running a certain pace. It's really just, are they able to cover the distance? And that's what really we're focusing on with her. So if all possible, you can pick those long runs up. They don't have to be slow long runs. They can be faster, and that might actually work out better because of some other things that we're going to talk about down the road here. The second thing is kind of those blurred lines that I just kind of referenced. I feel like once you get past like 4 hours in the marathon, 4.5 hours in the marathon, what you see a lot of times is that people are actually running their easy runs faster than their marathon pace. And it goes back to, they just don't have necessarily the general endurance. They can go out and run 2, 3, 4 miles and be under 10-minute pace, but they're going to run the marathon at, say, 11, 12-minute miles, because it's just as you increase that distance that they're running, they're going to have to slow down to kind of meet in the middle there. And so that's the other thing there. So don't necessarily, like, if you can go out and run those faster paces, then by all means go out and do that for that long run, as long as it's, you're not going to be faster than marathon pace, but you might be pretty close to marathon pace, because your overall problem isn't the pace that we're actually running. Our problem overall is just we need to build the general endurance to do that. So if you do that and you fade off, that's one thing. But if you can go out there and just kind of work on getting faster over the period of time, that's another. And I think that that's fine to work on because it's going to teach you some very valuable lessons along the way. The third thing I have written down is don't go so slow that your run is now becoming a fast walk or your stride is altered, right? So if you're forcibly slowing it down to stay in that pace range, and it's causing you to alter your stride, you're not really even running at that point, don't go that slow. Like if it's so slow that you're doing those things, pick that pace up. I don't even mind if you do a run walk type of thing. So if you run for say 5 minutes at a faster pace and then walk for a minute or two, overall that pace is going to average out. But I would rather see you run comfortably for extended periods of time and take a walk break if you need to, than run so slow that it's actually causing more damage than good. You're not getting anything out of it at that point. So keep that in mind as well. The fourth thing I have is that you may need to reevaluate your goal. Maybe you're just not setting yourself up for what you potentially could run. And I see that a lot of times. Like people come in and they really have no idea what they're capable of doing, but they say, well, I really just want to finish. And to finish, I would be happy if I'm under 5 hours. And reality is, as you train, you get to a point where, man, maybe I can run a little bit faster than what I thought. So if that's a problem and you're finding yourself really kind of looking at all the first three things we talked about, and it's like, you can go out and run faster, but you just don't because you're trying to stick into the pace, maybe we need to make the goal a little bit harder. And I know that's easy to do because a lot of people are doing a just finish plan. And so there's not really a goal set in mind. But if you're finding yourself that you can go the distance and you're forcibly trying to slow down just to stay in the pace range, and at that point it becomes so slow that you're kind of just altering your stride or you're just kind of shuffling along, don't hesitate to re-up your goal. So if it's like, and I think in this person maybe it was a 5 or just over a 5 hour goal, then maybe reevaluate that to run 4.5 hours. At that, the slower you get, the bigger chunks of time you can take off without relative amounts of work added to it, right? Like just getting you into shape and getting you consistently running and doing these things, we can take a person from 5 hours to even low 4 hours relatively easily, just from a work standpoint, not actually physically going out and doing it. Obviously, that's going to take effort on your part, but we can knock those big chunks of times off. Or the chunks of time get smaller and smaller. It's just the faster you get, those things get harder to knock off. So it might just be maybe reevaluate your goal. If you have like 6 to 8 weeks out and you're really thinking that, man, this is not easy, but it's causing me more work to slow down, maybe we reevaluate what that goal is. And then lastly, what I've written down is this person who was talking about this in the Facebook group was definitely just following a just finished plan. And so with that, there's no, actual structured workouts. There's no speed work. There's no tempo runs. It's all built around the premise that that person needs to just be able to cover the distance. And so with that, since there aren't any other workouts that you're really trying to recover from, that you're overall just building your general endurance, I definitely have more leeway on that kind of that 3 hour rule. If you have to bump that up to 3:15 or 3.5 hours for the 16-mile runs to get the 16 miles in, then I think that that's probably okay, because you're not doing a lot of intensity or a lot of structured intervals, so that you're not trying to recover from all of those things too. The amount of work that you're trying to recover from is less, just from an intensity standpoint, not from a mileage standpoint, but it is from an intensity standpoint. And so if you've taken that out of there, and that's one less thing that you're trying to recover from during the week, then I think that makes it easier to recommend that person to go, 3:15, 3.5 hours for that long run. And you're not doing that every week. You'd be doing that every other week. So you have plenty of time to bounce back from that. So with that, hopefully that helps some people out there who are in the same boat. I think there's some ways to approach it, and hopefully that will address that for you. So thanks a lot for listening. I will talk to you later. Take it easy.